Welcome to part 2 of our look at an honors journey through med school, coming up next. We are here with Ife, Trent, Karina, Sabrina, and Dr. Lindy Davidson. So kind of transitioning, could you all describe what your honors experience was like?
Yeah, so we were not in this gorgeous building that we're sitting in right now. Very jealous. But I remember, like, the biggest thing, I came from a small high school that did, like, an IB program, and it was very much, like, a collaborative, conversational, like, I mean, you still had people lecturing at you, but you could contribute your thoughts, and then I think that was what I liked most about I remember stepping into the first honors class, and I was like, wow, like, it's a small classroom, right? I'm coming from a giant chemistry lecture hall of like 400 people, and now I get a chance to like sit next to, lots of these people and meet people face to face and, names and have a conversation that is not just revolved around like, what element on the periodic table or, some chemistry concept. And so I think that was what I enjoyed most about like the honors experience, was exploring these different topics in like small groups and working with people that are not science majors and kind of like collaborating in a group like that, I think is a cool experience.
Yeah, I mean, for me, very similar. I came from a bigger school, but 650 kids, I think, in my high school class, but so long ago. But when I came, it was kind of just, I don't know, I just was there, and that's what I had an opportunity to do. And so having access to these smaller groups, I took Dr. Davidson's class on the end of life, and honestly, it served me well, what I ended up doing, but it would have served me well no matter what, because it's not only about patient care. What I really learned from her, it's more how you approach people in general. And so it really goes beyond just healthcare and what I learned in her class. But then also I was able to go on the DR trip, the DR service trip, which was, life-changing for me. And I really got a lot out of it. You really learn how privileged we are in America, and the kind of it increases your frustration with the medical system in America a bit, because you see the millions and billions of dollars we waste with administration and things. However, we kind of set forth to make a little bit of a difference, and we're starting here, and who knows where we'll all end up and what we'll end up doing, and hopefully making a big change in whatever way we can. But I think having access to those more intimate educational spaces and having those open conversations, and also I remember, I don't know if I said it or someone else, but you can't be afraid to say something that's unpopular. And it's just met with a discussion rather than you sitting in a lecture hall of 200 people and you feel like a minnow in a big pond. So I think that was like the biggest thing for me, is having that experience.
Yeah, I mean, same thing that like Trent and Karina said. I was more similar to Karina coming out of high school. I went to a local Islamic school, and so it was very, very small and very sheltered. And so coming out of that, just meeting new people, having like conversations that I think you wouldn't really have had like otherwise and stuff with a lot of different people is just very exciting to me. And I think also a little bit challenging in some ways, because it pushes you to step out of your comfort zone when you're in these like small classes of 20 people or less. So that was really great. I met some people I'm still like really good friends with till this day that I've met in like my very first AOK class when I was a freshman. And so, just, a very exciting thing to do. I came in, I don't know about you guys, I was in the 7-year BSMD program. And so some of the honors classes were kind of like pre-selected for you. But I remember like enjoying some of my honors classes so much that I actually went and took like extra honors classes. Like I took one of the art classes, I think with Dr. Wilkinson. Is it Wilkinson or Wilkins? Wilkins, yes. And I like absolutely loved that, just like exploring art through different eras. And she had the immersive experience at one of the museums in St. Pete and stuff like that. So, just like kind of being able to like, I think explore whatever it is that you wanted to explore. Yeah. There was always an avenue for it within the Honors College, which I really enjoyed. So, yeah.
Same experience. Yeah. Actually, I worked here. So I feel like I spent my free time here too. Like this is when we were in the Allen building, so we'd like stay in the back by
yes, right by my office. Yes.
Or a big comfy yellow couch. And we would just like sit there, and then occasionally like we would work, and then
occasionally we would work.
Yeah, but no, it was honestly, it was a very nice paid study hall. But yeah, same thing. Like being like science majors, we were in a lot of lecture halls with like 300 plus people. And it was nice because honors like had, I think it's like 15 or 20 maximum class size.
19.
19. That's what it was. So it was just definitely like nice for that. You see these people a lot. And also like the very niche experiences that you get to have. Like I studied abroad 3 times and it was paid for like almost every time because like we have resources for that. And it's things that like is available to us that's not available to like everybody else. So yeah, and networking too. I also feel like I feel like I got good networking opportunities like when I was an undergrad, like for like shadowing, because I feel like it was kind of hard to get shadowing because there's so many pre-med students at USF. Like I feel like people come here just to be pre-med.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So like that was nice. Like research as well. I did my thesis with you. And being able to like present that, I was like all honors college. So
it's nice that you can get it like all in one place,
right?
Because it's like the community's small, so you're actually getting to meet like your peers, but you're actually getting to meet professors and advisors like all in like within the same building.
Yeah.
And so everything is like right there. Like ONS is in this building, and like all your advisors are in this building. So there's never like a lack of resources or like people who want to help you.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that because you have that small ratio, it's like I know my chemistry professor probably says he cared about me. But, you know, I was in Dr. Davidson's class for 2 semesters. I sent her a graduation invitation, and that's apparently on her fridge.
It's on my refrigerator right now.
Yeah. So I called Dr. Davidson, one of my friends, every Christmas. We talked about watching the Christmas movie, White Christmas, and we send pictures to each other every year.
That's so cute.
So it's, you know, going back to finding your people and being able to be in a position where you can actually create personal connections. And
Absolutely.
I very earnestly called Dr. Davidson Mama Lindy.
I've heard that term.
That's my DR name. Yeah.
But it's real because she does have that, and she's almost like a second mom to me when I was here, because college is a very stressful time and a big time for growth as well. And so being able to be in a situation where you can create personal connections with whoever it may be, either classmates or professors who are invested in you. That's really what this was able to offer us.
And the honors professors are always the ones who like you come back and like you're still friends with them like years later, and that you walk by them and like they're like, oh, how are you doing? Like what's going on with your degree and all those things.
Yeah. Like I'm not that loser I'm not that weirdo that like still goes to high school like when they're 30 like and be like, oh hey guys, what's up? Because you know they peak. But like I will admit like I do come back to the honors. This is like the 3rd time I've come back like since I left. Because anytime I'm in Tampa, I'm like, oh, let me just go see Dr. Davidson. She's
so great.
But like sometimes I go see Mr. like Mejias or Carter or something. Like, oh, I'll go see like other people too.
Well, and on our side, it's really exciting because, you know, we get a chance to have these long-term connections because you pour into somebody for 4 years and then they disappear and you're like, well, I wonder what happened to these folks. And so when people come back, we're thrilled.
Yeah.
But like the White Christmas incident, the root of that story is when we were in the Dominican, for some reason, people labor under the delusion that all of my students can sing there. I mean, these are pre-meds for the most part. And I'm like, I don't sing. But Dr. Carroll loves for us to sing. And so he just turns and he's like, sing a song. And he's like, sing White Christmas. And so Trent and I are the only ones that know all the words. So Trent and I are like singing the best rendition of White Christmas you've ever heard in the Dominican on that day. But then Dr. Carroll turns around and he says, sing it in Spanish. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. That's where we draw the line. No more. No more. But then Ife, when she was working here, I remember on my birthday, do you remember this? On my birthday, I opened my office door and you and somebody else had like a popper or something. You're like, happy birthday. might have been you and Amber. I don't remember.
Yes.
But it shocked me. I mean, it's a miracle I'm still alive because I had no anticipation that anyone was, one, going to know it was my birthday, and two, going to be hiding in my office and like something explode in my face at the time. So like those kinds of moments and connections, I think, are that's something you can only get when you have 19 students in your class and you have students who are working in your midst. We have lots of students who work in the college. Our entire IT enterprise is our students. Caroline is an amazing podcast host. She's a student here. Like, we use our students to be the lifeblood of our community. And so advisors and faculty and staff, we love for you all to come back. It's our joy to see how you're doing and what you're doing, because we have these connections. We have stories together that we can share. And so I think that's a really cool thing. And it really makes me happy that you all have come back to talk to us today.
So I know you guys have kind of thrown around like going to the Dominican Republic and studying abroad. What would be like your personal favorite like honors experiences, or maybe it was a course or like a trip that you went on? Do you have like one that stands out to you?
I think mine was the Thailand trip. Is that still a trip?
We're not doing that one right now, but we did do that one a couple times, I think.
Okay, yeah. That was a very interesting like experience for me, because I actually went on that after I graduated. Cool. Dean Adams was like, "Hey, do you want to go on this?" And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but I graduate in May. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, it's fine. We can figure it out." And I was like, "Okay, if I want to pay for it." Then
I'll take the free trip.
Yeah, I was like, sure. No. But aside from that, like, it was, I've always loved service. And, you know, obviously it was like a service trip, but it wasn't health related, which is what I liked about it, because I feel like everything that I was doing in the past 4 years, like at least education-wise, was health related. So not that I wanted to like get out of it, but I like different things. But we were able to go over there and go talk and volunteer at an orphanage and talk to girls just about like, you know, girl things. But like not only that, but just I think human trafficking is just like a huge issue in Thailand and stuff, especially for kids that were in that specific orphanage, because they all have like different reasons why they were there. So being able to like spend time with them and give them, we were there for about a month, so like have a month of just like fun and stuff. And I mean, Asia's great too, you know. So I also was after the fact, the entire group of girls that went with me, we all like traveled around Asia as well after the fact, because we were already there.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, and unfortunately, that's where I got my lovely food poisoning.
Oh, the mango.
But yeah, from mangoes. But you know, but yeah, I think that was definitely like my favorite experience, because if you want to go, I feel like honors does a good job of making it happen. Like,
absolutely.
You just have to be like, I'm interested. And they'll be like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And then it's nice because the Office of National Scholarships is literally downstairs. Or when I was here, it was down the hall and on the second floor. Yeah, so you can literally walk over and be like, hey, I want to do that. And one of my friends, she got a Fulbright. No, two of them did. Yeah, two of them did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got Fulbrights, and yeah, it was great. And then somebody went to, I think it was Luis. I think he went to like Oxford or something. Like he got that through Office of National Scholarships as well. Yeah,
that's right.
So yeah, there are a lot. Honors, I think it just provides opportunities.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
I have like a favorite course memory I'll share. Obviously, like I'll plug Dr. Davidson's end of life course, just because I feel like it talks about things that like people feel very uncomfortable talking about, and I really enjoyed that a lot. And the other course that I remember taking that like was on a whim, I was like looking through the catalog. I was like, what am I going to take this semester? And it was history of rock and roll. Of all things, right? And I was like, I guess like my dad raised me on Queen, so like maybe I'll understand some of this stuff. And and it was very fun. I was like, where else are you going to take history of rock and roll, right? Like, you're not going to find that course in the science colleges or any, many others. But it was just a cool experience, and it wasn't just about rock and roll. There was a lot of different history and of music, and at the end we got to like pick our own like song, I think, to like kind of you break it down and the meaning behind it and talk about, what was going on at the time that like produced that kind of music kind of thing. So it was a very cool experience that I just feel like is unique to something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. You taking the history of rock and roll means you're going to ace all of the OR questions
The
about
pimp questions.
music,
Oh,
because all of our
Croissant loves to
attendings are of that era. And so you would think that during a case you get asked about anatomy, which you do, but they are also people, and especially here at USF and TGH. And so they love to also have a little bit of fun, and whatever music is playing kind of quiz you. And I'm not that great at rock and roll, so maybe I should have taken that. Yeah, for me, I talked a little bit earlier about my experience with Dr. Davidson. That's kind of the highlight of my time at USF and the Honors College as well. So the DR trip was really big for me. Again, seeing that experience about how clinicians not only handle limited resources, but how they kind of are able to thrive in those situations. I remember one specific experience where Dr. Curl, he was talking to a patient who's concerned who has diabetes undiagnosed. And so he was asking them if the ants moved towards where they were urinating. And it's because there's sugar in the urine. And so kind of those are crazy things that they didn't teach us in medical school.
Nope.
But also seeing how there's so many different ways to practice medicine, especially in resource limited situations. And those are things that we probably should know a little bit more about, because what if you end up, it's great that we're at a big academic institution and we're going to be working in a big hospital that has all the bells and whistles that we could possibly ask for. The only other place you could probably go that has more is like Massachusetts General, like Cleveland Clinic, those types of really big places with huge infrastructure. Like we're kind of located on an island, but they are building out like crazy at TGH. But kind of some of us, that doesn't mean that's where we're going to end up. And so having available like kind of a history and being able to go into your memory about some of these things you learned on some of these, you can kind of rope that into your future practice and go investigate, because it really plants that idea of like there's other ways to do things in much more resource limited situations.
I'm Charles Adams. I'm the Judy Genshaft Endowed Honors Dean at the Judy Genshaft Honors College at USF. Being the Dean of the Honors College to me means providing our amazing students with the opportunities that they deserve. These are extremely gifted young people, and they are going to do wonderful things in the world. And my job is to provide them with the opportunities and the knowledge about those opportunities that they need to take full advantage of them.
So how do you guys think like these honors college experiences like shaped your time in med school? Like, have they had some kind of, like, do you think they've impacted how you have handled medical school or how you see medicine?
I think for me, I was much more, I think it made me a better communicator. So at USF, they have a class called doctoring, which is basically teaching you how to be a doctor, not the like knowledge, diagnosing people, but it's how to structure a conversation like a doctor needs, where you're able to kind of be personal, but also get the information you need to provide good care. Because at the end of the day, we're not treating people on a piece of paper, we're treating people. And people have feelings, and people feel certain ways, and people also have different experiences. People who've been trafficked, people who are currently being abused. They teach us about those types of things. But having the background, this goes back to my end of life experience, and having those types of conversations kind of before I was even in medical school really prepared me. And, I don't know about the other people who've taken the class, but when you go through these standardized patient experiences, they kind of pulled me aside after, like, oh, wow, that like went really well. You felt comfortable, because the biggest thing in medicine and communication is embracing silence, because silence is very loud in the right situation. And then also letting the person tell you their feelings without interrupting them and making them feel heard. And I think that's some of the most important things, in getting on the same page. That's some of the biggest things in medicine. And sometimes we're stuck in our EHR and our EMR trying to do notes. But when it comes to those really sensitive conversations, you need to kind of unwind, go back 30 years when we didn't have all these distractions, phones, all these things. Put your phone on silent, tell them, call me if it's an emergency or something like that, and be able to structure things differently than a person who has a cold.
I agree with that. Oh, sorry. I'll add on to that to say that I think, going back to the fact that you're working with people in different majors who think differently, when you're having a conversation about, I don't know, any kind of topic, we'll talk about appendicitis, for example, like all of us sitting here probably know what appendicitis is, but not everybody does, right? And so part of that doctrine course is like how to communicate with people who don't have the same knowledge base as you, or, how to structure a conversation around that, the patient's interest, because at the end of the day, like, it's a human talking to a human, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Honors College does a good job of like embracing like the human side of you, if you will, and bringing out those things that make you unique. Mm-hmm. And it forces you to like recognize that what makes you unique is not what makes, what might mean you unique. This is not what makes Sabrina unique. And so being able to converse with these people and accomplish a task at the end of it all nicely, if you will, I think the Honors College facilitates that a lot.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I was going to say is that I think it kind of like started and grew my love for global health. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned, I went on like 3 trips because I went on the first one and I really enjoyed it, and then I went on yours and I really enjoyed it. I kept on going, and even when I went to med school, I went to Kenya for like 2 months because we were able to do rotations there as well. And that one was probably just so interesting because as opposed to when you're an undergrad, you can't do any medical stuff because you don't know anything, like you shouldn't at least.
Speaking of ethics,
as a pre-med student, do you guys think you would honestly be able to take a patient history properly?
I don't know if I could do it halfway through medical school.
Right. But like when I was in Kenya, like it was very interesting because not only did I do that, but because at that point I knew I was going into surgery. I had a month of general surgery, a month of cardiac surgery, so I was able to do that. And kind of earlier with what Trent said, like you see how medicine functions in other countries. Yeah. Specifically like with roles as well. Like over there, if you're going to operate on a patient, you're going to admit them, you're going to put in the IV, you're going to do everything. Like it's not like, you just tell all the nurses to do it and then you go on your happy way to the OR, And it was funny because one of the residents over there, she did a month at Indiana, like kind of like an exchange type, or no, it wasn't a month, it was maybe over a month. And she was telling me that she was like, yeah, you guys have such nice things over there. When you can't find a vein, you just go grab the vein finder. We can't do that over here. You just tell them to drink more water. And, and she was like, and the other thing was I think we were fixing like a hernia or something, and we were closing. And I was telling her, I was all like, yeah, I'm trying to just go as fast as I can because I am hot. They didn't have air conditioning in their ORs. And I was like, sweating, and I can admit, like, I have a really bad problem with not drinking enough water. And she was like, she was telling me like, oh, that's so funny because when I was in your OR, it was so cold you could hear my teeth chattering from the other room. And I was like that's right, because like in our ORs it's freezing. But then over there I was like, there are sweat places. Sweat usually doesn't go so it's But I say all that to say that I just really enjoyed like the global health experiences. Even if you're not like a pre-med student, they still have trips that are not health related, to like experience the different cultures and stuff. So
it's important just to like go out of the place that you've always existed in and like learn to like interact and understand with other people who don't have the same life experiences or life context as you do, and that's just going to make you like a more compassionate like caregiver. Right. So I think that's really cool that you got to do all of those different abroad experiences. Could you maybe touch on a little bit of just about how, from the educator standpoint, of how the Honors College kind of tries to shape experiences for students, whether or not you're going into something like medicine or, whatever profession you're going into?
Right. So in our Honors College as it is now, we have every student has to do 2 experiential learning credits. And those, because we know those experiences are what really help you to grow, not just professionally or academically, but personally, and become more confident in who you're going to become in your next phase of life. And so study abroad obviously is a really significant experience, and we encourage our students to do that. But we also have a lot of other kinds of experiences. Study away, for example, local. I was telling you all a little earlier about a local trip that we had students go on a spring break where they learned about ecology, but also like environmental sustainability in the Tampa Bay area, in the Central Florida area. So you don't have to go a long way to have these experiences, but those experiences are really critical, we think, to personal development. So whether the trip is focused on medicine, which that Dominican Republic trip that I've taken many students on, and other lots of students have gone on that trip, that's really critical. But we've also had non-medical students go on that trip and learn about human migration and issues of discrimination or other kinds of, even we had a student in journalism go on that trip and do a lot of like videography and storytelling, because there's just a lot that you can learn from going to another place. But then we have a long-standing trip to Germany. So students go to Osnabrück, and we have this very great connection with the university there. And students actually get to meet other university students in another country and befriend them and have a connection. We have a group that goes to South Korea now. That's a trip that's been developed since you all graduated. We have a Japan trip. We have one to Ghana. So students are able to go to a lot of different places, and each trip is focused on a little different idea. Sometimes it's about the history of a place. Sometimes it's around service to that place. But each and every location that students go to, the goal is not just to kind of check a box. Yeah, I got my passport stamped, but it's more about what you experience. We call it experiential learning, what you experience, and then how that changes you and changes your perspective even on your own life. You can learn a lot about your life and your home and your country by leaving it and seeing it from another lens. And I think that's the most critical thing about going out. And we try to develop our trips with that in mind, not simply about seeing buildings or learning another language, although those are very exciting and important things, but really about, now what does that mean for you as a person?
So kind of to close up for today, what is one piece of advice that you guys would give to like undergraduates or younger students who are looking to like build a career in medicine?
I think my one thing that I wish I had done more is just kind of living in the moment. I think when you are looking at a career in medicine, or even, career in law, or something where you're looking at, 8+ years of school, and then you're looking at residency, et cetera, you're looking so far ahead that you forget like what's right in front of you. And so I think, don't worry about 8 years from now, worry about tomorrow, right? And, if MCAT's coming up, if that's the big thing on your mind, that's the goal today, and then getting into medical school next, and kind of take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And I think you'll be a little happier at the end of it all.
Yeah. To second that point, I mean, the funniest thing about this whole is that when I set out in undergrad, it's like, I want to go to medical school. I developed this master plan in my head about timelines and et cetera and et cetera. And, you get nudged on your timeline along the way. However, you get so busy pursuing medicine, for example, that it forces you to think about, in medical school, you're thinking like 1 week ahead. In residency, you're thinking a day ahead. And so to that point, thinking about in the moment, I wish I would have kind of taken it a little slower in undergrad. I wasn't in the 7-year program or anything, but, kind of going out with your friends that one extra night, it didn't have to be that serious all the time. But at the same time, I look back on my experience, and I had a good experience, and I got to where I wanted to get. But it was hard, and it's just going to get harder. But I think the biggest thing and basic advice is surround yourself with people who are going to help you along the way, kind of get your village. Because, I mean, just like with kids, it takes a village to create a doctor, your support system throughout medical school, and then your co-residents who really become your family, because you spend more time with your co-residents during residency than your own family. Like, it's really true that you really need to end up in a place, and you will end up at a place where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think to add to both of those things, I feel like a lot of people, kind of like what Trent was saying, we all have this like image of what we're going to do and exactly how we're going to do it. And so I was in this 7-year BSMD program, and I actually dropped it like halfway through, I think, my second or third year of undergrad. I was like, don't want to do this. Like, this isn't it for me. You know, I did it for a couple of years, and I don't want to be confined to this timeline. And so I think my biggest piece of advice, which, you know, like my younger sister has a lot of friends who are getting ready to apply to medical school, and everyone's like frantic about applications and what do I need to do and how do I do it? But like, it's okay to take the time. Like, your journey does not need to look like every other person's journey. And if there's one thing that I always say is like, take that gap year, take 2 gap years, take 3 gap years. Like, it does not matter how you do it, as long as you know what your goal is and kind of what you want to achieve, or, you know, what kind of person you want to become in the meantime. I, you know, graduated a little bit early from college. And so I had some time off. I was working at Moffitt between college and med school. And, you know, I just loved it. And I realized there are so many things, I think, outside of studying, like so many just like life skills and opportunities and meeting people and going out and experiencing things that you might not always get when you're confining yourself to that timeline that I have to graduate from, you know, undergrad, and then I have to go to med school, and then I have to go to residency. And it's just like things kind of get lost in all of that. And so I feel like just don't confine yourself to like this like cookie cutter journey that we all have to like go through. I think it's okay to personalize things a little bit, take the time that you need to, and do the things for yourself that you need to. Because kind of like what Trent was saying, like, you're not going to get all of this time back, especially once you're kind of committed to residency and stuff like that. Like, we're entering the workforce now, and like, this is it. You know what I mean? And you know, I think everything falls into place the way it's meant to be. So if there's one thing I think I would say, it's probably that.
Gap years, big supporter. I think they develop you not only professionally, but personally.
100%.
And you can tell, like, I don't know about how your class was. I could tell the people who worked between undergrad and medical school, huge maturity difference, in my opinion. And then also, if they worked in a healthcare setting, you know how to navigate. Like, you know, there's different relationships in the hierarchy of medicine, and knowing how to navigate that makes your life in medical school so much easier, because you're not having to think about like the little minute like micro interactions with people, because, you know, everybody there is working and you're a student there, and how you treat other people is going to go a long way in your experience, and also how they're going to treat you. And then now we're staying here. So I hope I've invested well at TGH and Morsani and here at USF. So long term, you can end up working with those people for like 10 years, like we're going to end up.
I don't want to play devil's advocate here, but I did not take gap years. I went all the way through, and I think it's a perfectly reasonable journey as well, if that's what you want to set yourself up to do. I like the fact that, like, if you don't take a gap year, you study, like, you're kind of already in that student mode. I think it makes it easier to study. But then you befriend people like Trent who teach you things about the healthcare system that you didn't learn because you didn't take a gap year.
Or finance.
or finance. I'm still learning. So I think that, you know, if it's like Sabrina said, your journey is unique, right? So if gap years sound appealing, if that's what you want, absolutely go for it. But also be okay with not doing a gap year if that's not what you want either.
I think I agree with like everything that they said. It's honestly just like an extension of that. I think what a lot of people lose sight on when they're specifically in the honors college, that you're in college. Like, you're barely an adult. You're only going to get this experience one time and make it a good one. Like, obviously I was in honors, but like that was not my whole life. Like, I played sports. I had friends outside of the honors college that I spent a lot of time with. I was active in African Student Association. Like, this is college, and don't make like going to med school your entire life, because you're going to have your med school time. And it, you know, you're gonna live. You know, so if you decide to go to med school immediately or in 10 years, it's going to be okay, because in 10 years, you're still going to be 32. Medicine is ever evolving. It's changing, you know, you're going to get to it, you know, so just enjoy the moment that you're in, get involved in campus, make friends, make experiences. And then I wouldn't say it's a regret, because it's not something that I would change now, because I'm in the place that I want to be. But one of the things that I feel like is the most important thing that pre-meds need to know, whether you're an honors college or not, is that you do not need to major in biomedical sciences. That is the most useless degree ever if you are not going to biomedical, if you're not going to medical school. I did not use that degree, and I worked in my gap year, and that degree was useless. That wasn't even good enough for me to go get a job as a biology teacher. Like, useless. Please major in something you actually care about and just take your pre-med classes. Like, they should honestly take that away because it's just mind-blowing. But yeah, and then I also like second gap years as well because I think maybe like 3 months into my gap year, because I'm an adult and I have to pay bills, like I had like a breakdown because I went to the dentist and they told me it was going to be like maybe like $2,000 to fix a couple fillings. I had to get a root canal, and I went to my car and started crying because I was like super overwhelmed because but at the end of the day, I'm an adult. I was 22 at the time, so. Yeah. Like, these are things that you have to do. You have to pay for this. Like, my mom and dad are not going to come rescue me because I'm an adult, you know? I think having a gap year, at least for me, I feel like has served me well even now because, like, I budget very well. Like, I know, like, I can't do that because I have to do this. Or I know, like, for example, I have to get my car registered, and that's going to be a couple $100. And again, I'm 28 now. My mom and dad are not going to pay for it. So I need to not go to the mall and go shopping because I need to go pay for that. Like, I think a lot of times when, especially with this road, you are going to be in life, you are going to be behind compared to some of your friends. You know, you're not going to have a lot of these experiences, but so just keep sight of that and just, you know, you're human, but you are an adult. So, you know, and it sucks because in medicine, people will not treat you like an adult, but you are an adult and you have feelings.
Let me just, we're not going to trash completely the biomedical science major because you can also do that and like get your credits from that and do a minor in something else, right? Or like I did ballet classes throughout my entire college experience. I didn't do the minor because there were some other requirements that I didn't feel like taking. But you can still like explore those classes that you want and get the things you want if med school is what you want. But I do understand that it's not the most applicable degree. So.
Yeah. And I agree. I did minor in sign language, and that cool. When I was in Kenya, it was great because their national language is not English, it's Swahili, and the deaf patients there know ASL. And I was the only person that could communicate with them.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I was like, if I was not here, what would y'all be doing, right? On the paper, that's rude. So yeah, also explore minors too. It's like, even if it's something that you never thought you'd be interested in, it's maybe like a couple extra classes, like 4.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could finish that in a year if you wanted to.
I think the biggest thing about pursuing your degree is like, if you want to do medicine, like Ife said, like do the prereqs, but when you go to interview for medical school, they want to see you're passionate about something. Yeah. Are you passionate about medicine? Obviously, you're applying to medical school, but they love it to talk about people who have kind of non-traditional, like pre-medical degrees, because it brings up 2 questions. One, like, why are you so passionate about this? And then also, like, how are you going to use that to really integrate that into medicine and be unique in that way, which I think really, if you are very passionate about dance, if you're really passionate about engineering, that gives you kind of a very unique story to tell. And that's when you're applying to medical school, that's all it is. You're crafting your story that you're going to tell, and that's how they kind of decide along with all your numbers and things like that. So
I will say it's also actually, it's come up in some of my residency interviews. So I double majored in biomedical sciences and psychology, and then I minored in like biophysics. And, you know, I don't know how this like degree stuff, maybe I put it into like my residency thing, whatever. But, you know, it gets put into your thing. And a couple of my interviewers were like, this is really cool. Like, you not only did the traditional pre-med stuff, but you like, you know, you studied psychology, you did these things. Like, how is that going to be useful in your career as a surgeon? And like, what do you think that's done for you, like through med school? And so they're always looking for something different. And so I agree 100%. Do find your passion and like seek it out, whether it's through classes or through other hobbies or, you know, jobs, whatever it is. And I think, you know, it'll serve you well regardless of what career path you go through. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Oh, did you want to say something else? No, go ahead. You sure? You sure?
I just want to say everybody looks good on paper. So find something that makes you stand out. That is it.
I'm glad that made it in.
Good.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. That's all the time we have. Good luck on Sunday? Monday at your residencies. I believe in you. You're going to do so great. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to join me today. Have a good one.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
All right, and we're back in the studio. So, Dr. Davidson, what do you think about the episode?
That was so much fun. And I was really intrigued to hear how they were feeling about going into their first day as official working doctors, but also hearing about like their different journeys because they all kind of had a different path to where they are now. And then their perspective on what it means to be an honor student, what it means to be a pre-med student. And I think it'll be really important. I'm excited for my current pre-med students to listen back to this episode and to kind of glean from the wisdom that they all shared.
Absolutely. It was really cool to hear about all the different things that they did in honors and like at USF as a whole. And as like a current honor student, like it's still giving me things to like look forward to and like try and achieve like in my last year here.
Yeah.
And so kind of tying that back, with that said, don't forget to check the Honor Roll newsletter and our website at usf.edu/honors for all upcoming events, updates, and news. All right, that will do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by honors student Sandra Napolitano and Professor Adam Davidson. Thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. We appreciate your feedback. Until next time, go Bulls.